Hello and good morning to everybody watching this session on our Green Careers Week Festival. This session is Who Looks After the Sea with Emily in Cornwall. And before I move over to Emily, who's currently preparing to speak to us in Falmouth, I'm just going to welcome you to the session. I'm going to say that there's a QR code and Mentimeter code on the screen that you can use to interact with Emily and to ask her questions about her career and her job and her love of all things marine at the end of the session as well. So please follow those. The details for that are in the chat as well. I understand from Emily there is a question about an object slightly close into the start of the session as well. And I'm going to put a picture of that object in the chat as well. So if you don't see it on the screen for long enough for the time that you need to answer the question, then refer to the chat for that. So I'm just going to unshare my screen for now and then set up the live feed to come through. So please bear with me. Feel free to keep answering those questions if you wish as well. And okay, I think Emily is ready.
Hello and welcome to Falmouth. My name is Emily Cunningham and I'm a marine biologist and conservationist. And today I'm by the sea in Cornwall, which is in southwest England. And my job is to study and protect marine creatures. And in today's lesson we're going to be looking at what lives in the sea, here in Cornwall, what threats they face, and whose job it is to look after the sea. Are you ready to dive in? So, what lives in the sea in England? Unfortunately, it's a bit too windy today for us to go snorkeling in the sea. So, instead we're going to learn about some other ways that marine biologists, like me, study what lives in the sea. So, I'm going to be looking at this. Can anyone have a guess what this is? Now this is what we call a BRUV. That's right, you heard me, a BRUV. BRUV stands for Baited Remote Underwater Video System, BRUVS. And on it you'll see a GoPro, which can go underwater in its special housing, and it's attached to this plastic frame which can sit on the seabed. Sometimes we put on bait, just like if you were going fishing, and this bait attracts in sea creatures, which then get recorded by the GoPro. Would you like to have a guess of what kinds of sea creatures we record on the BRUVs here in Cornwall? Did anybody guess maybe an octopus? A seal? Fish perhaps? Or maybe even a shark? Well, you'd be right for all of them. Did you know that here in the UK we have over 40 different kinds of shark? Some of them are this big and live in the shallow waters close to shore, and some of them are the size of a bus. So basking sharks are the second largest shark in the world, and they are found right here in the UK. But there's no need to worry though. Basking sharks won't harm you. They actually feed on tiny creatures called plankton. And plankton are so tiny that you'd need a microscope to see them. And so basking sharks have to eat a lot of plankton to feel full. So how about some creatures that are a bit easier to spot? Do you think we have whales and dolphins in the UK? If you guess yes, then you're right. We have 28 different kinds of whale and dolphin that have been spotted in the seas around the UK. And I regularly see dolphins from the coast here in Cornwall, mainly a kind of dolphin called a common dolphin. And in the winter months, I sometimes see big pods of over 100 dolphins right here in this bay. And we get whales here too. So minke whales live here year round, and marine biologists like me, we've given them the nickname of stinky minkies, and that's because they've got really bad breath. We sometimes get other whales visiting this bay as well on their migrations, like humpback whales and fin whales, and they migrate between the Arctic and the tropics. So do you remember earlier I said that basking sharks were the size of a bus? Or do you think that fin whales are bigger or smaller than that? So imagine you're standing at the edge of your playground. How many steps do you think you'd need to take to have walked the length of a fin whale? Now imagine you've taken 20 steps. Do you think that's the length of a fin whale? Actually, that's the length of a basking shark. So you need to keep going. How about after 30 steps? 40? 50? Stop when you've done 52 steps. That's the length of a fin whale. The longest fin whale ever recorded was 26 metres long, longer than 2 buses. They're the second largest whale on Earth, and they are found right here in the UK. Cool, hey? So as we've learnt so far, we've got some amazing sea creatures living here in the UK, from 40 different kinds of sharks to 28 different kinds of whale and dolphin. But unfortunately, many of our marine creatures and their homes are in danger. What do you think that the main threats to our seas are? Maybe you thought of this: plastic pollution. Plastic is a big part of our lives. We use it every day, but the problem with it is that it doesn't break down. A plastic bottle like this will stay in the ocean for hundreds of years, slowly breaking up into smaller and smaller pieces. Sea creatures can mistake the plastic for food, and it makes them sick and can even kill them. So every time I'm out on the beach, I pick up plastic bottles, crisp packets, sweet wrappers, using my litter picker. Beach cleans like this will help, but they won't fix the problem. 10 million tonnes of plastic end up in the ocean each year. That's the equivalent of 2,000 bin lorries of plastic going into the sea every single day. To fix it, we need to reduce the amount of plastic we all use, make sure we recycle everything we can, and always throw our litter in the bin. 80% of the rubbish in the sea comes from land, so even if you drop litter inland, say in London or Manchester, then it could still end up in the ocean. Every time you put your litter in the bin, you help the ocean. So thank you. How many of you like to eat sea creatures? Is that a bit of a weird question? Well, how many of you like a tuna sandwich? Lots of us like to eat seafood. Things like tuna, salmon, maybe fish fingers. But have you ever thought about how your seafood is caught? Now, there's sometimes a limit of how many of these creatures we can catch before it starts to affect the ocean ecosystem. After all, those fish that we like to eat are also food for things like seals and dolphins. And when we catch too many fish, it's called overfishing. And sometimes things like dolphins and seals and other creatures accidentally get caught in fishing nets too, causing them to drown and die. But not all fishing is damaging. So how can you tell if the fish that you're eating has been caught in a way that doesn't harm the ocean? Well, you can look at something called the Good Fish Guide. You can Google it, it's online, it's completely free, and it helps you make sustainable seafood choices. And that means seafood that's been caught in a way that doesn't harm the ocean and doesn't catch too many of each species. So as well as asking your parents to have a look at the Good Fish Guide, why not ask if the fish served at your school is caught in a way that doesn't harm the ocean as well? This area that you can see behind me is called a marine protected area. We have lots of marine protected areas all around the UK which help protect our sea creatures and their homes. And lots of people are involved in looking after our sea. These are people in the government who make our laws and create marine protected areas, like this one. There are scientists like me who help collect all the information to show where should be protected. There are the local fishermen who catch fish in a way that doesn't cause harm to our ocean. There are the people who work at ports and harbours, like here at Falmouth Harbour, who make sure that boats don't damage the seabed. And there are conservationists, again, like me, who work with all of these kinds of people, as well as with local communities and local schools to help protect sea life and habitats. And there are many different careers that can help our ocean. I've known that I wanted to help look after the sea since I was 8 years old. I grew up far inland, near Birmingham, but I was always interested in sea creatures, especially dolphins. At school, I chose science subjects for my GCSEs and A-levels, particularly biology and geography. I was the first person in my family to go to university when I went to Bangor University to study for a degree in marine biology. I did a 4-year course learning all about sea creatures, the threats to their homes, and all about marine conservation. From there, I've worked all over the world. I've worked with sea turtles in Sri Lanka, dived on coral reefs in Indonesia, used bruvs, like the one I showed you earlier, in Antarctica, and I now work in dolphin conservation in Asia and South America. I've dedicated my life to helping protect the ocean. And now I'm going to ask you all to help. So after today's lesson, we're asking you to make a marine protection poster, where you'll choose one marine species, be that a dolphin, a fish, a seahorse, or anything else you choose, and create a poster to raise awareness of why that species is important, the threats it faces, and how people can protect it. Can't wait to see what you create. But first, here are some questions for you about what we've learned today. How many different kinds of sharks are there in the seas around the UK? What happens when litter gets into the sea? What is sustainable seafood? What are some different careers in which you'd help care for the ocean? And would you rather study sharks, whales, fish, or seaweed, and why? Thank you all for listening. I'm really looking forward now to hearing all your questions.
Amazing. Thank you so much to Emily for coming to us live from Falmouth, and thank you for Falmouth Harbour for putting her up inside today as well, because I understand it's not the calmest day outside, as you probably heard the sea at the end of that film. So while Emily gets seated up to join us on camera here to answer your questions, there is a next question slide for you on Mentimeter to ask Emily questions herself. So I was really impressed with all of your suggestions and answers throughout the session. Quite jealous that some of you have seen whales in the UK as well. That's amazing. I've seen dolphins in Wales, but no whales outside of Wales. So I'm just going to wait to see your questions rolling in, which they are, and I'm just going to test to see if Emily is ready to go. Emily, are you with us?
Oof. Hi everybody. It's very windy here today in Cornwall and a bit wet, but it's lovely to see all of your comments and just catching up on the Mentimeter. Wow,
Cool, right?
very cool.
Okay, so right, Emily, I'm going to pick out some questions to go for. So if everybody wants to carry on submitting as you go, we have some time now to answer these. So let's start with a nice simple opener. Do you prefer dolphins or whales?
Oh, that's not a simple opener. What a good question. I think my favorites are dolphins, just slightly over whales. Whales are amazing because they're so big, but dolphins are very inquisitive and they will often, when you're out surveying, come up to the boat. They're very curious. They want to see us as much as we want to see them. And one of the coolest things that I ever saw with dolphins is I was out in the Irish Sea, which is the sea between Wales and Ireland in the UK, and we were studying bottlenose dolphins, which are one of the kinds of dolphins you see a lot in the UK. And a group came up, and one of them tossed a jellyfish onto the boat. And I wondered what was happening. And one of the other scientists I was with says, they want you to throw that back. And they were trying to play a game of toss the jellyfish with me. They were completely wild. No one had ever taught it them. And it just showed me how intelligent dolphins really are.
So I know what we're all thinking. Emily, did you throw the jellyfish back?
I gently nudged it back with my foot because jellyfish sting, and I didn't want to use my hands, but I did play with the dolphin.
Nice, like an extreme version of your cat bringing a mouse home for you.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so this is a question. Why do orcas not live near the UK?
Well, actually, we do have orcas here in the UK. We've got a resident pod, but there's only two of them. They're both boys. They're called Jonco and Aquarius, and they are seen off mainly Scotland, but they very occasionally come down to Wales and Cornwall. Very, very occasionally. I have spent hundreds of hours of looking for them here, but I've never seen them here. But we also quite often see the orca from Iceland. So they come down and they feed on fish, and they're seen around kind of Shetland in the very north of Scotland, and occasionally they'll be seen in kind of like Northumberland and in the North Sea as well. So make sure you keep an eye out when you're next at the beach for a big black fin. Their fins are 6 feet tall, 2 meters, so it's probably tall as your dad. Have a look for them in case you might see them.
That's cool. Is there any way of tracking the movements of these animals? Have any of them got tracking devices on that people can look at?
They haven't got tracking your devices on, but they and the shape of their fins, so those big tall fins that I told you about, the two that I mentioned, Jonco and Aquarius, they've both got special kind of notches just naturally that have formed from them fighting with each other, like play fighting. And so those notches we can tell that it's definitely that one. So we can kind of see where he has been from that unique marking. So if you were to like keep an eye on the news, people might tell you that they've seen Jonco or Aquarius near to where you live.
That's so cool. So if anybody sees a fin, take a photo of it and let
Yeah,
us know.
absolutely.
Okay, so unsurprisingly, some more questions about animals that you might have come across here. So I'm going to go for a double-barreled one here. So how many teeth do crabs have? And what's the biggest sea animal you've ever seen?
Two very good questions. So, crabs don't have teeth in the way that like we would have teeth. They have these funny little mouth parts. They kind of pick up their food and then they kind of use these funny mouth parts to like pull the little bits off it. So they eat things like mussels or different kinds of mollusks. But yeah, they don't. It's not their teeth you have to worry about. They don't have them. But if you ever see a crab when you're out rock pooling, just be careful of their little pincers because they might pinch you and it really hurts. I speak from experience. So just be careful. And then the biggest sea creature that I've ever seen is a blue whale. So a blue whale is the biggest whale ever. It's the biggest whale on Earth. It's actually the biggest animal that has ever lived on planet Earth. It's bigger than any of the dinosaurs. It's even bigger than that fin whale I told you about just earlier when I paced out how big they are. So blue whales can grow up to 30 meters, which is 3 bus lengths long. So if you imagine 3 buses parked next to each other, that's how long a blue whale is. And it was absolutely amazing to get to see it for real. And they really are blue. That you can really see that colour when they come up to the surface.
So cool. That must have been so exciting. Am I right in thinking that when you go into the Natural History Museum in London, that that's a blue whale in there as well?
Absolutely, yes. If you go to the Natural History Museum in London, there's a blue whale hanging up called Hope. So it's a model of a blue whale. It's not a real blue whale, but it's a model of a blue whale, and they have a skeleton. And so you can see how huge they are. And when they come to the surface to breathe, because whales are mammals like us, so they breathe air. And so when they come to the surface to breathe out, they kind of make a big noise, and you sometimes see like a spout coming up, and that spout alone is it's 4 meters, 12 foot high, to just the spout. So you can see that from miles and miles and miles away. They're really cool.
That's so cool. Okay, great question here. I'd imagine this is going to be somewhere deep in the sea, but what's the weirdest sea creature there is?
Ooh, the weirdest sea creature there is. There are a lot of weird sea creatures, and but I think I'll tell you about one that I think is pretty cool. So there's a kind of jellyfish called a giant phantom jellyfish. It's absolutely huge. It's like it can be bigger than it's like almost the size of a whale. It's huge, a small whale, minke whale kind of size, and it looks a bit like a Dementor from Harry Potter. So if you imagine what that looks like with the kind of black furry bits, it's just like that, and it lives really, really deep in the ocean, thousands of meters deep. But when I was working in Antarctica, we saw them from our submarines and we saw them at about 200 meters deep. And we don't know why they come really shallow in Antarctica, but it was amazing to get to see them alive. And if you just imagine something like that, a massive underwater Dementor coming out of the gloom, then yeah, the seas are really, really cool, but there's lots of weird things living down there.
This is a question of mine actually, just leading on
Oh,
from there. But I worked on land where I was very comfortable with the wildlife that we have in the UK on land. Um, Even though you're far more comfortable in the sea than I was and probably will ever be, is there anything that you've ever come across that's made you think a bit, oh, I'm a bit scared?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, the animal that I'm most wary of is an animal called a leopard seal. So they live in Antarctica as well, and they're a kind of seal, but they're a predatory seal. So they feed on other seals and on penguins particularly. And they are called a leopard seal because they really are like a sea leopard. They've got huge teeth, like 4 inch long teeth, so even bigger than on my hand. And they're very wily. So as with like most things, you kind of hear them coming. So sometimes I'd be out with my boat in Antarctica and a leopard seal would just pop up next to my boat, kind of like just stick its head up, have a look, and then disappear. And I was never quite sure when they were going to pop up. So when I was putting my hands into the water to take samples, I was always having a good look around and hoping there wasn't a leopard seal. And yeah, luckily never had too bad of an interaction, though we did have one that bit our inflatable boat, popped it, and we had to get rescued. So always a bit wary of the leopard
How
seal.
did that feel, being in a boat that was losing air with leopard seals around you?
Worrying, but we always work in teams of two, so there's another boat not too far away, and I've got a radio to say, help. But
A
yeah,
spare jellyfish to play fetch with them just in case they're feeling playful.
I I think I don't know if I'd play fetch with a leopard seal, but they
Fair
sometimes bring you penguins as a present, but ex-penguins. Luckily, that didn't happen to me, so I definitely didn't want to see that.
hard to know what to do with a gift like that, I suppose, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So moving on from there, what's the favorite place that you've ever worked in?
Okay, my favorite place I've ever worked in, that's a really hard question. So I've been able to work some very special places. Antarctica was very special because it's just like being in a wildlife documentary. I used to work in a place called Ascension Island, which is a British overseas territory. It's in the tropics. It's a really tiny island. It's the tip of an undersea volcano. So the sea is very deep either side of it, but it was where sea turtles came to nest. So every day I would be out monitoring the sea turtles, so green turtles, and at the peak of the nesting season, there would be hundreds of them on the beach laying their eggs any given night. And that was really special just to kind of sit there, this very remote place with more turtles than people, and just kind of sit and get to see them. And so that I loved that, but I have to say that working in the UK is my favourite of all because I think most people think we haven't got that much living in the sea. And actually, UK marine life, I think, is some of the best in the world. And I'm really, really grateful that I get to be based here and get to study our seas.
Cool. That's a really nice segue, actually. So, again, we will move on to career-based questions in a bit, of
Oh.
which there are many. But what types of sharks have you seen in the UK?
So I've seen basking sharks, the ones that I mentioned earlier. So the massive bus-sized sharks, we occasionally get those off Cornwall in the summer, and the ones that feed on plankton, and they're just incredible to see such a big animal, and they just swim slowly along the surface feeding on plankton, which is why they get the name basking shark. When I'm diving, I will often see the kind of small cat sharks that we get to see. And on our brevs, we've seen lots of kind of sharks that are maybe between this big and then a little bit bigger, sort of maybe me-sized. But I just want to tell you about a kind of shark that I currently have in my freezer. So my husband is also a marine biologist and he's a deep sea shark expert. And he studies a kind of shark called a ghost cat shark, which is we have those in the UK. We're very, very lucky to have them. And they live over a mile deep down in the ocean. They're only about this big, but they are super, super cool. So we have one because it's possibly a new species. So he's going to be studying to see that. So we're working with the Natural History Museum. So yeah, this is the life of a marine biologist. You often have things in your freezer that you're studying as well.
Frost the wrong thing for dinner tonight. What a cool name as well, Ghost Cat Shark.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah,
awesome.
we wouldn't eat it, just to be clear. It's just for science.
So, have you ever helped any deadly predators survive?
Oh, that's a good question. Deadly predators survive. So some of the work I have done will help sharks. So I think often people see sharks as deadly predators because they would have the potential to hurt us. I've swum with sharks that have been known to attack people, and I never felt scared because they really are. They're beautiful, important creatures, and you just read their behavior and you can tell if they're being aggressive. And 90% of the time, they're not. They're just going about their business. And so, some of the work I've done for to create kind of marine protected areas or improve laws will help protect sharks. And so, I'm always really proud to do that because although they can hurt people, they're such an important part of the ocean ecosystem. So yeah, if you can take anything away from today, sharks are cool. They are friends.
Okay, so given that coolness in the animals that you come across, let's move on to some career-related questions. So let's
Oh.
start with the first one. What got you so interested in science?
So when I was growing up, I had a kind of computer game on something called a CD-ROM, which none of you will remember, but maybe your teachers will know what that is. It was before the internet. That's how old I am. And on that, it taught me about lots of different kinds of endangered creatures. So not just sea creatures, but all different animals around the world that were endangered. And that means that they are threatened and might go extinct. And on that, I learned about things like whales and dolphins and a creature called a manatee, which lives in rivers and the sea. And I just remember being really scared that there might be a future without those creatures in it. And so I decided that I wanted to work in ocean conservation when I grew up. I wanted to become a marine biologist, though I didn't really know what that meant. No one in my family had been to university. I didn't really know who I could ask, but it sort of planted a seed in my mind, and I was just, yeah, so obsessed with whales and dolphins from that point. I even had a dolphin painted on my bedroom wall at home, in my childhood bedroom, and yeah, it never went away. And so I decided to follow that dream and become a marine biologist.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So the next one is around marine biology, and I've been on one of these, so I can say there are. But where can you see dolphins in the UK, and are there any trips?
Yeah, so there's lots of places that you can see dolphins. There's some places where you have a really high chance. So if you come down to Cornwall, there's some great boat trips that go out of Penzance and Falmouth that you can have a very good chance of seeing dolphins, maybe whales, maybe sunfish. In Wales itself, the country Wales, you can go to a place called Newquay, which is two separate words. So not Newquay in Cornwall, but Newquay. That's in West Wales, and they have lots of bottlenose dolphins really close to shore, so you can often see them just from standing on the pier. It's very near Aberystwyth, or you can also go on a boat trip there. And then up in Scotland as well, there's various different places that you have a high chance of seeing whales and dolphins. So Skye is a good bet. And then on the east coast, if you want to go over that side, you can take trips out of Whitby and Northumberland, and they have pretty good chance of seeing those things as well. And you're always going to have a good time.
Amazing. Yeah, I've been on two now, but both to Newquay.
Lovely.
And I was surprised because I booked them thinking, come on, UK dolphins, I'll go on a nice boat trip, but I won't see any. Then within a minute on both trips, there they were. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's amazing. UK wildlife consistently surprises me.
Absolutely.
Okay, bit of a fun question now. Have you ever been bitten before? So you've been pincered, but have you been
Been
bitten?
pincered. Have I ever been bitten? That's a very good question. I don't think I've ever been bitten. I have been stung by jellyfish and stung by sea anemones before. That can really hurt. And whilst we're on this, some people think that if you get stung by a jellyfish, that you should wee on it. Let me tell you, you should never do that. It will make it worse. Just pour some water onto the sting. But just be careful. There's nothing much in the sea in the UK that will really hurt you, but just treat everything very gently. Don't poke stuff. Just like look at it nicely, and then you won't get hurt.
Don't poke stuff and don't wee on yourself. They're two very good bits of
Absolutely.
advice to
Good
remember.
lessons from today.
So what was your first job?
Well, my first job, so I was when I was at school, I did waitressing, I worked in a shop, and then I was a pot washer as well to earn money to learn how to dive and to drive. And then when I graduated from university, I went to work at the Environment Agency, which is one of the UK's kind of agencies that helps manage the environment. And I was first of all, I started doing the filing and making the tea for everybody as an assistant. And then I worked my way up and I became like a technical fisheries and biodiversity officer. And I was out walking along rivers doing surveys to improve the ecosystem for fish. And then from there, I went to work. I went to Sri Lanka to work on sea turtles, then to Ascension Island, like I told you about earlier. And from there, I've done lots of different things, working lots of different places, quite often for conservation organisations, sometimes for government bodies, but always stuff that helps the ocean.
Okay, and just on the back of that, actually, I'm going to embarrass you a bit now, Emily,
Oh, okay.
because obviously you've got some letters after your name. So I'd like you to explain to the over 500 students that are watching this what the MBE means after your name and when you got it.
Okay. Well, I think I have it here. I do. I didn't set this up. It's in my bag. So this is my MVE. I'll open it up for you. So it's a medal, if you can see this here. So it's a medal that I got from Princess Anne at Windsor Castle, and it was because I was on the King's Honours list. So he has a list that comes out twice a year of people who've done important things that are good for the UK. And I was given that medal for my services to marine conservation and coastal communities, and it was an incredible honour. And I still can't quite believe it's real, but I don't get much chance to show my medal. So thank you very much for
You're
the chance
welcome.
to share it then.
Well, thank you on behalf of all of us for helping our oceans as well. It's critically important work, and we're very grateful for everything that you do. Okay, what qualifications did you need to do your job?
Yeah, so I have got a degree in marine biology, which I mentioned earlier. So I did that at Bangor University and I did a combined degree. So it means that I did my undergraduate degree and my master's degree in one go. And that's because you can get a student loan for all of it because it can be quite expensive to do a master's. But you can get student finance in this country for all of it, means it's open to everybody. And they're the kind of only, I guess, formal qualifications I needed. Everything else has been based on experience. So after I had finished my degree and I had that qualification, I've just worked my way up through various roles to get different experience and different skills in conservation. So some of those are scientific skills, like the field skills, and then some of them are more like skills to do with fundraising, because we have to spend a lot of time getting money to do conservation and things like what we call policy. So that's changing the laws to make sure that wildlife is better protected. So lots of different things that you learn on the job. But yeah, degree's a good path, or there are other ways into this field. Sometimes there are kind of internships you can do, or there are sort of apprentice pathways. So lots of things changing, which is exciting. So it's not just a degree, but I loved my time at university. So I would recommend that if it's something that interests you.
Thank you. That's a great plug for apprenticeships as well. So we are developing a new level 4 apprenticeship for England that's coming out next year, and there are already apprenticeships in Scotland, England, and Wales that cover wildlife and nature conservation as well. So often depends. There's a route that suits your learning. Thank you for that. So, are there many marine biologists in the UK?
There are actually. It's funny when I was growing up, so when I was probably about your age, 10, 11, and I decided that I wanted to be a marine biologist, and I had told my parents and I told my teachers that I wanted to be a marine biologist, and they sort of were like, "Yeah, right, Emily, that's not a thing you can be in the UK." And I thought, I'm going to prove you wrong. Surely there must be a way. But I thought I would probably have to move abroad because in my mind, all the cool stuff was overseas in the tropics, or kind of had this idea that I'd have to go and live in somewhere like Florida. But then as I went to university and I learned there was so much amazing stuff here to study, and actually there's a lot of marine biology happening in the UK. So lots of universities, some of the best in the world for marine biology are here in the UK. And there's lots of marine biologists, not just from the UK, but from overseas that come here to study what we have. And so there are lots of marine jobs more than ever before here in the UK, not just in the kind of science side of things, but also in the conservation side, the policy side, like I talked about before. So just turned out really well because I do love it here. So I'm glad I got to kind of stay and build my life here.
So we'll come back to what your day-to-day job looks like at the moment as well. But I want to ask you first as a question, what inspired you to do the job initially? Was there an initial moment like with a species or zoo or anything you can think of that?
Yes, I mean, I said about the game that I had earlier, the kind of computer game, that was really what kind of inspired me to want to do something about endangered species. That was kind of the understanding that things were threatened, and I hadn't really realized how grave that was for some species. And it's really nice now to be working on some of those species that inspired me to become a marine biologist. But I was very lucky, although I grew up in the Midlands, so I grew up in Staffordshire, so near Stoke-on-Trent, near Birmingham. And so that's quite far from the sea. And I would perhaps go to see the sea maybe once a year in the summer holidays. I was very lucky. My mum and dad would take us to stay with my auntie and uncle who lived in North Wales. And it was there when I got to actually go to the beach and go in the rock pools and rummage around and really see what we had that I thought, actually, yeah, this is really the path I want to take. And yeah, I always feel very grateful that I got that opportunity to actually go to the seaside because not everybody does.
Nice. It's amazing that you got to follow that passion that you developed as
Mm.
well. You said earlier, obviously, you've interacted with dolphins. Are there different groups of dolphins?
Yeah, so there's different kinds of dolphins, so different species of dolphins. So you like I spoke about the bottlenose dolphins. We also have the common dolphins, Risso's dolphins. There's lots and lots and lots of different kinds of dolphins. There's even pink dolphins. There's dolphins that look a bit like pandas. There's loads of amazing dolphins in the sea. But there's different groups of dolphins, like you say. So, for example, the population that we talked about in Newquay in Wales, they are different than the bottlenose dolphins that you would see if you saw dolphins, for example, on the East Coast. If you saw dolphins in Yorkshire or the like Moray Firth in Scotland, they would be a different group of bottlenose dolphins. And in bottlenose dolphins, you have inshore dolphins and offshore dolphins. So the inshore ones always stay really close to shore, and the offshore ones hang out a little bit further off, and they don't even talk to each other. They don't interact at all. So they're very, very interesting animals to study.
It's cool. They keep themselves to themselves. They did find out recently, didn't they, that cod have different accents. It's worth
Yeah.
integrating. So yeah, depending on where you are in the world, cod have different accents. Another question here about jobs. So what different types of jobs are there relating to the area that you work in?
Yeah, so there are within kind of marine as a whole, you might have the marine biologist, the scientist side, and that might be where your day to day is studying things that live in the sea, or maybe even the processes of things that live in the sea. So, like how currents and waves and things might affect the environment. For that, you will often work within a university. So you'll not only go to university, but you'd stay and be a scientist at a university. That's what my husband does. So he's a marine biologist. He's a lecturer at a university. And then there are jobs a bit more like mine, which is about the protection of what lives in the sea, so more the conservation side. And that can be very hands-on, so field type work where you might be out, say, planting seagrass or studying oysters, like collecting them, which that we showed earlier. And there might be kind of the different side of conservation, which is trying to influence laws or working to create new marine protected areas or sort of lobbying government to do better at protecting our sea and working with politicians. That can be a little bit more desk-based than necessarily out in the field, but it's such an exciting time to consider a career in the marine space. Like when I started out, I think I remember when I graduated, there were two marine jobs when I did my first job search. And I thought, gosh, I've chosen quite the hard thing. And then actually, as it's been 15 years now since I've been working in this space, and there are so many exciting jobs out there all over the UK and not just at the coast. So some of those kind of policy jobs and things are inland too. So you don't have to live by the seaside to help the sea.
Amazing. What a great message as well. That's right. So lots of different work, all with the same aim, which is protecting and
Mm,
conserving and increasing wildlife.
yeah.
Okay, so we're coming towards the end now. So here's a nice question to perhaps end on. What's the favourite part of your job?
My favourite part of my job, that is a really good question. Um, my favourite part of my job is that I get to work with other people that really care about the sea. And the reason I say that is because when I was growing up and when I first started out, I felt very alone as being almost the weird ocean girl. I was the kind of the only person that seemed to really be sort of banging the drum about why we needed to protect ocean species. And now I feel like in society, we've become so much more aware of how much threat the ocean faces, but also all the good things that can be done to protect it. And so I love that every day I get to work with people from all over the world who are working towards that same goal. And although our work can be hard at times and we're facing big challenges, I can see that we're starting to make a real difference. So, yeah, my favorite part of the job is definitely the people that I get to work with, and not just grown-ups, when I get to work with school groups, when I get to go out and see the cool things that young people are doing. It's just so inspiring to me. So that's definitely my favorite part of my job.
That is a cool part. Um, we do have a couple more minutes, so I'm going to ask you some small, fun questions.
Okay.
Have you ever seen a great white shark?
I haven't seen a great white shark, but I was once about to jump off the back of a boat in the Azores, which is in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. I literally had one foot off the side, hand on my mask, ready to jump in. And the guy behind me said, I saw a great white shark here yesterday. And so the entire time I was underwater doing my surveying, my heart was pounding. And a half of me really wanted to see it because it would be cool. And half of me was very, very glad that I didn't see it. So, yeah, I hope one day I will, but maybe when I'm a bit more prepared. They are very cool. I'm not scared of them. It's just they're a big animal. And yeah, I did have the Jaws music in my head when I was jumping in off the
It's
boat.
probably your heart making the da. Um,
Yeah.
have you ever seen a stingray?
I have seen a stingray. Yeah, I love them. They're so elegant underwater, and they kind of like they're almost like they're flying, but really gentle. So, and again, I'm not to be scared of. You just give them some distance. They're not aggressive. And I've seen some really beautiful different kinds of ray that we've got, in different places around the world. So, yeah, very lucky to have seen a stingray. They're cool.
Oh, and one more very, very a small question, although I don't know if you've got this answer in your head or not, or if you've got a map on the wall. How many countries have you visited during your career?
I don't know. That's such a good question. Probably about maybe 30, maybe more. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'll have to sit and count. That's a very good question. But yeah, very, very lucky to have got to have travelled as I have. But yeah, the UK really is a very special place for marine biology too.
Have you worked on every continent?
Except uh, Australia, New Zealand, so Oceania. I've not been for work down there. So that, yeah, maybe hopefully find a way to get myself there one day.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Emily. And just before I, give final thanks to Emily and for everybody listening as well, just a reminder that the activity that's linked to today's session can be found on the Green Jobs for Nature Green Careers Week Festival page. It's ready for download now. We'll be recording this, well, the session has been recording and we'll put it out live within the next couple of hours too. But yeah, thank you very, very much for engaging with us. We've got another session coming up in about an hour and a half's time with the Marine Conservation Society, but up in Scotland. But thank you all for engaging so well with this. Emily, thank you so much for blowing wide open the number of opportunities that are available in the UK marine sector, of which you're absolutely spot on. There's so much interesting wildlife here that's kind of not shouted about almost as much as it should be. But you certainly, doing your best to do that, which is partly what the medal is there for as well. So thank you for the work that you do. So is there anything you'd like to leave us on?
Sure. I just noticed a question in the Q&A asking if I've ever thought of writing a book. So I'm going to do a senseless plug that I have a book coming out next October. It's called Our Ocean to Save. And if you're interested, please do pick it up and let me know what you think. And yeah, just keep spreading the word of how amazing our seas are in the UK. Thank you all for your brilliant questions and input. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Emily. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And we'll see you at another event hopefully soon. Bye bye.